Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on True Dracos. Now I haven't picked up on this strategy in a long while simply because Diagram is still at 1, but the deck is surprisingly still playable if you do it correctly. It runs a lot of draw power, so that's one of the cool things about it, and it also runs a lot of floodgates, which actually gives this deck the edge it really needs. Now keep in mind, this is not like a tier 1 strategy, simply because again, with Diagram at 1, this deck got severely power crept, but Dinomight did just come back to 2, so there is a little bit of a consistency boost now. So anyway, figured I'd share you guys what I got this time around, and yeah, let's go and get started. So the main deck itself is 40 cards, starting off with 3 copies of Ignis Heat. So all the True Dracos have the gimmick where they get to tribute a face-up spell or trap instead of a monster to basically just tribute some of these guys. And they also have a clause where if your opponent activates a card or effect, they usually have some form of quick effect. So Ignis Heat lets you have access to one of your continuous spells, whether to add it to your hand or just activate it right away. Next up, 3 copies of Majesty Maiden, which in her case, if your opponent activates her card effect, in response, you can actually add a True Draco or True King card, of course, or True King monster, I should say. Now keep in mind this only works on one or the other, but you're only going to be running the True Dracos, so you're mainly going to search out an Ignis Heat or a Dinomight, which comes to our last card, 2 copies of Dinomight. This gives you access to your continuous trap cards. And of course, for that reason why he was limited for so long. So for right now, he's finally semi-limited, but who knows, on the next list, he should come back to 3 for sure. So, but yeah, you generally want to see one or the other of these cards. That way you can kind of like get your combo started. And yeah, let's just go from there. And that pretty much rounds up our monsters. Oh, and if y'all didn't notice, I'm not running an extra deck with this deck at all. For the field spell, of course, I'm only running 1 diagram. But the cool thing is that, yeah, you get to... you can either destroy a card on you control or in your hand, and then add 1 True Draco monster or True King card from your deck to your hand. And of course, just to kind of like add an additional utility, I'm running 1 Mystic Mine. So yeah, 1 Mystic Mine just is a good going second card, and the fact that it just helps me buy time basically, and that's the whole gimmick behind it. 1 Terraforming just to go along with these 2. Also running 3 copies of True Draco Heritage. This gives you an additional normal summon if I'm not mistaken. Let's just double check this. Yep, you can tribute summon 1 True Draco or True King monster in addition to your normal summon. But also during your main phase, you can draw cards equal to the number of True Draco or True King card types, monster, spell, or trap, that are sent from the field to the grave. Now, of course, this card already has to be active to do that, but for this deck, it's actually not that hard to do anyway. So yeah, just a great way to get some additional draw power. Next, 3 copies of Disciples. This is basically the Pot of Avarice of the deck. You target 3 True Draco and or True King cards in your graveyard, shuffle them into your deck, draw 1 card, and then during your main phase, immediately after this card resolves, you get to tribute summon 1 True Draco or True King monster. So same thing as True Draco Heritage basically. Oh, and one thing about the continuous spells and traps, they all have some form of popping effect if they leave the field and hit the graveyard. So the spell cards basically pop, let's see, yeah, they pop spells and traps, whereas the continuous trap cards pop monsters. Next, 3 copies of Duality, just to help me search out the cards I need. Double Desires, which is currently semi-limited. Not that this card needed to be hit in the first place, but it's whatever. 1 card of Demise, since I don't really special summon anything. 1 Into the Void, and 1 Upstart Goblin, because getting cards in your hand is super easy with this deck. So yeah, you definitely just want to draw as many cards as possible, just to get to your more basic stun cards, And yeah, that pretty much rounds out our spells. Now for trap cards, and I run quite a lot of them actually. 3 copies of Apocalypse. This card used to be super annoying, and it still is actually, as a matter of fact. But yeah, you can target 1 other True Draco True King card, destroy it, and then half the attack and defense points of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. And keep in mind, it's a permanent, so even if this card leaves the field, it still resolves. During your opponent's main phase, immediately after this card resolves, you can tribute summon 1 True Draco or True King monster, and yeah, basically just lets you do tribute summons during your opponent's turn, and yeah, it just gets nuts. Next, 3 copies of True King's Return. This is basically a Call of the Haunted for the deck, and of course, same thing, you could do, immediately after this card resolves, you could do tribute summon 1 True Draco or True King monster, and yeah, it's pretty nuts. I was running Monarch Stormforth, but now I swapped it out for Skill Drain simply because I feel like this card's just a little bit better. Because Monarch Stormforth is great, it's a one-sided skill drain, but the difference is that you have to control a tribute summon monster, and if that monster happens to leave, it self-destructs on the next turn. Whereas skill drain, even if they get rid of my monsters, at least I still have a way to just like negate effects. So that's my logic behind it. I'm playing 2 summon limit, you know, just because like we're in a form where there's a lot of decks that summon a whole bunch of them, that summon a whole lot of monsters, Flunderies. We also got Branded, and yeah, there's just so many different strategies, even Prank Kids and such. Sword Soul. So yeah, Summon Limit I feel like is really good, and the fact that it's a continuous trap card, it's also trippy summonable. So yeah. 3 Solemn Strike just to stun my opponent, and of course a Metaverse just to get access to either one of my field spells. Depending on what my hand looks like, it will depend on which one I really want. So yeah. Alright, so that rounds out the main deck. For the side decks, since again I'm not running an extra deck, running 3 copies of Inspector Border, 3 copies of Mono Wado. These are primarily going second cards, or if I know my opponent's running like relying on a whole lot of monster effects, these cards are just really good for that purpose. 3 Cosmic Cyclone for other backwards strategies. And then just for more Floodgates, I got 2 copies of There Can Be Only One, since unfortunately this card's not that good against the Branded matchup. That's why I decided to side it out. Now this card's actually pretty good. Lose 1 turn, it's basically Baguska. And since, you know, it only affects special summon monsters, it's actually not a bad card to consider. And 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, you know, just to help me defend myself against backward removals. So yeah, Anti-Spell Fragrance, not too bad. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys again next time.